Hello and welcome to this lesson where we're going to quickly talk about the difference between vector and non-vector for your game backgrounds. And so basically, to put it in very simple terms, if you're able to, always try to keep your game background designs vector. And that also extends to pretty much any other type of design. If you're able to get away with it being vector, keep it vector. So in Adobe Illustrator, everything is going to be 100% vector if you're using these tools to create the shapes. So that's perfect. And what that simply means, vector means you can scale it up to any size imaginable without any type of quality loss, essentially. So let me show you what I'm talking about here in Adobe Photoshop. So Adobe Photoshop is not a vector application, though you can create shape layers which kind of behave pretty much exactly the same way as vectors do. But basically, sometimes you get in a situation where you have what's called a raster layer, which is non-vector. So this background right here, which is one of the projects we're going to be covering, is currently rastered. So let's just assume for a second this was created in Adobe Photoshop, and you handed this artwork over to a client, and they say, okay, well, that's great. It's based on, if we go to image size, it'll show us the pixels 2048 by 768. We'll say that's a standard tablet size, which really it's not because I tiled it twice. But let's say that's great, and then they come back to you and they say, hey, I want we want to cover a larger size because a new tablet or something opened up with a high density, and we can use a larger resolution picture. So we need double the size. So you say, okay, well, we'll go ahead and go to image size, and we'll go ahead and just double everything percentage-wise, maybe say to 200%. So you hit OK, and it looks okay, but if we zoom up close, we can see that things are pixelated and a little bit blurry looking. And that's because they were rastered, and there are rastered layers. It's all pixel-based data and not vector. So that's one of the things you have to be absolutely certain of. Now, you can still design your game backgrounds here in Adobe Photoshop, but you have to try to remember as much as possible to try to use shape layers. And so shape layers, right here, this is a standard layer that is rastered. And a shape layer, let's say, for example, we create an ellipse right here. Well, we could see that there's this little icon over the ellipse thumbnail over here, and this lets us know that it's a shape layer. So we can take this, and this is the original size that we specified, but we can hit Control-T and scale this up, or we can adjust the image size as well, and there will be no loss of quality because it's a shape layer. So if you do use Photoshop, remember to try to use and maintain these shape layers as much as possible. And aside from that, if you do need to create a background that's kind of lifelike and you can't get away with just using only shape layers, and you want to use maybe textures or skin textures or something like that, try to use a very large document size in terms of resolution so that you're going to kind of future-proof yourself from larger screen densities that may require, maybe like a 4,000 pixel wide image. So that's just something to note and to definitely be aware of before you begin designing for almost any project, not just game backgrounds. All right, so with all that information out of the way now in this chapter, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next chapter in our next project, and that's going to be a jungle side-scrolling background. All right, I'll see you then.